Welcome to this tutorial podcast from LingExam Language Academy. Today, we're going to explore one of the most important topics you'll encounter in IELTS Speaking Part 1, which is talking about your daily life and hobbies. This is a topic that comes up frequently in the exam, and the good news is that it's about you and your everyday experiences. So you already have all the knowledge you need. What we're going to do today is help you express that knowledge clearly, naturally, and confidently in English. Let's start by understanding why examiners ask about daily life and hobbies in the first part of the speaking test. The examiner wants to make you feel comfortable and help you relax at the beginning of the interview. They're not trying to trick you or ask difficult questions. Instead, they want to hear you talk about familiar topics like what you do every day, how you spend your free time, and what activities you enjoy. This gives them a chance to assess your fluency, your vocabulary range, and how well you can use different grammar structures in a natural conversation. Because these questions are personal and straightforward, this is actually your opportunity to shine and make a great first impression. Now, what kinds of questions can you expect about daily life and hobbies? The examiner might ask you about your typical day, what time you wake up, how you spend your weekdays or weekends, what you like doing in your free time, what your favorite hobbies are, whether you prefer indoor or outdoor activities, and whether your hobbies have changed over time. These questions are simple and direct, but your answers need to show that you can speak fluently, organize your thoughts well, and use a good variety of words and expressions. Let's talk about how to describe your daily routine effectively. When someone asks you what your typical weekday is like, you shouldn't just give a one-word answer or a very short response. Instead, you should expand your answer to include several details. For example, imagine the examiner asks, "What is your typical weekday like?" A strong answer would be something like this. On weekdays, I usually wake up around 7 in the morning, have a quick breakfast, and then head to work. I work in an office, so I spend most of my day in front of a computer. After work, I sometimes go to the gym or just relax at home watching TV. Notice how this answer includes specific times, describes different activities throughout the day, and uses time expressions like usually and sometimes. This shows the examiner that you can talk about routine activities naturally and with good detail. Let me give you another example. If the examiner asks, "What time do you usually wake up?" you could say, "I typically wake up at around 6:30 on weekdays because I need to get ready for work. On weekends, though, I like to sleep in a bit longer, maybe until 8 or 9 o'clock. It really depends on whether I have any plans for the day." This answer is excellent because it doesn't just state a time. It explains why you wake up at that time, contrasts weekdays with weekends, and adds a personal touch by mentioning that it depends on your plans. This kind of expansion makes your answer much more interesting and shows better language skills. When talking about your daily routine, there are some really useful vocabulary items and phrases you should know. You can use expressions like wake up, get up, and go to bed to talk about your sleep schedule. You can say have breakfast, have lunch, or have dinner when describing your meals. If you travel to work or school, you can use words like commute or travel to work. You might also want to talk about how you spend time doing something, or how you relax, unwind, or take a break during the day. These phrases are natural and commonly used by native speakers, so using them will make your English sound more fluent and authentic. Now let's move on to talking about free time. This is another very common topic in IELTS Speaking Part 1. The examiner might ask you questions like, what do you do in your free time? Or, do you have enough free time? Or, how do you like to relax? When you answer these questions, it's important to mention more than just one activity. This shows that you have a range of vocabulary and can express yourself in different ways. For example, if someone asks, what do you usually do in your free time? You could answer like this. In my free time, I enjoy reading books and listening to music. Sometimes I go for a walk in the park or meet my friends for coffee. It really helps me relax after a long day at work. This answer is strong because it lists several activities, explains that these activities help you relax, and connects your free time to your work life, which makes the answer more complete and natural. Let me give you another example about free time. Suppose the examiner asks, do you have enough free time? You could respond by saying, well, honestly, I don't have as much free time as I'd like because I work quite long hours during the week. However, I try to make the most of my weekends by spending quality time with my family and pursuing my hobbies. I think it's all about balance and making time for the things that matter most to you. This answer is particularly good because it's honest. It explains your situation and it shows your personal philosophy about time management. It also uses phrases like make the most of and quality time, which are natural expressions that native speakers use. When talking about free time, there are some useful phrases you should practice. You can start sentences with I usually, I like to, or I prefer spending time. You can explain why you enjoy certain activities by saying, it helps me relax, or it helps me unwind. You can also express your feelings about activities by saying, I find it enjoyable, I find it rewarding, or I find it relaxing. These expressions add depth to your answers and show that you can talk about your feelings and preferences in English. Now let's focus specifically on hobbies. Hobbies are personal interests or activities that you do regularly for pleasure, and talking about them is a great way to show your personality in the speaking test. The examiner might ask you questions like, do you have any hobbies? Or, what hobbies did you enjoy when you were younger? Or, have your hobbies changed over time? When you answer questions about hobbies, try to be specific and give details. For example, if the examiner asks, do you have any hobbies? You could say, yes, I love playing the guitar. I've been practicing for a few years now, and I try to play at least an hour every evening. It's a great way to express myself and take a break from work. This answer is excellent because it names a specific hobby, explains how long you've been doing it, mentions how often you practice, and explains why it's meaningful to you. Let me give you more examples of how to talk about different hobbies. If you enjoy sports, you might say, I'm really into playing basketball. I joined a local team about 2 years ago, and we practice twice a week. It's not only good exercise, but it's also a fantastic way to meet new people and build teamwork skills. If you enjoy creative activities, you could say, I've recently taken up painting. I'm still a beginner, but I find it incredibly relaxing. There's something therapeutic about mixing colours and creating something with your own hands. I usually paint on Sunday afternoons when I have a few hours to myself. If you enjoy outdoor activities, you might say, I'm passionate about hiking. Whenever I get the chance, I head to the mountains with my friends. There's nothing quite like breathing fresh air and enjoying beautiful natural scenery. It helps me disconnect from technology and reconnect with nature. Notice how each of these examples doesn't just name the hobby, but also explains when you do it, why you enjoy it, and what benefits it brings you. This kind of detailed answer is exactly what examiners want to hear because it demonstrates fluency, vocabulary range, and the ability to express complex ideas clearly. When talking about hobbies, there are some useful verb patterns you should know. For musical instruments and sports, we use the verb play, as in play the guitar, play the piano, play football, or play tennis. For activities like yoga, painting, or gardening, we use the verb do, as in do yoga, do painting, or do gardening. For activities that involve movement or travel, we use go, as in go swimming, go hiking, go jogging, or go cycling. You can also use phrases like take up when you start a new hobby, get into when you become interested in something, or be passionate about when you really love an activity. For example, you could say, I took up photography last year, or I've really gotten into cooking recently, or I'm passionate about learning languages. Now let's talk about some important tips for giving great answers about daily life and hobbies. First, you should use a variety of tenses in your answers. While most of your answers will be in the present simple tense, because you're talking about regular activities, you should also use other tenses when appropriate. For example, you can use the past simple to talk about hobbies you had in the past. Like, I used to play football when I was younger, but now I prefer swimming. You can use the present perfect to show how long you've been doing something, like, I've been learning Spanish for 2 years. You can even use the present continuous to talk about current habits or changing situations, like, these days I'm spending more time at home because I'm working on a big project. Using different tenses correctly shows the examiner that you have good grammatical range and accuracy. Second, always give reasons and examples in your answers. A strong answer doesn't just say what you do, it explains why you do it or how it makes you feel. For instance, instead of just saying, I like reading, you could say, I like reading because it allows me to escape into different worlds and learn about different perspectives. I especially enjoy historical fiction because it combines entertainment with education. This kind of explanation shows depth in your thinking and makes your answer much more interesting. Third, never give one-word answers. Even if the question seems simple, you should always expand your answer to at least 2 or 3 sentences. This gives the examiner more language to evaluate and demonstrates your fluency. For example, if the examiner asks, do you like cooking? Don't just say yes. Instead, say something like, yes, I really enjoy cooking. I find it creative and relaxing, and I love experimenting with new recipes. Plus, there's something very satisfying about preparing a delicious meal for my family or friends. Fourth, practice with real questions. You should prepare for at least 10 different questions about your lifestyle and interests. Write down your answers, practice saying them out loud, and record yourself if possible. When you listen back, Check whether your answers are long enough, whether you used good vocabulary, whether your grammar was correct, and whether your pronunciation was clear. This kind of practice will help you feel much more confident during the actual exam. Fifth, use linking phrases to organize your answers naturally. Words and phrases like because, so, that's why, for example, also, in addition, however, and in my case, help connect your ideas and make your speech flow more smoothly. For instance, you could say, I enjoy reading in my free time because it helps me relax. Also, it's a great way to improve my vocabulary. For example, I recently read a novel that taught me lots of new expressions about emotions and relationships. Let me show you the difference between weak and strong answers so you can see what examiners are looking for. Imagine the examiner asks, what do you do in your free time? A weak answer would be simply, I watch movies. This answer is too short and doesn't give the examiner enough information to assess your English properly. A strong answer would be, I really enjoy watching movies, especially thrillers and documentaries. I usually watch them on weekends when I have more free time. It helps me relax and learn something new at the same time. Can you see the difference? The strong answer expands on the topic, mentions specific types of movies, explains when you watch them, and describes the benefits. This is the level of detail you should aim for in all your answers. Let me give you another example. If the examiner asks, do you prefer spending time alone or with others? A weak answer would be with others, but a strong answer would be, I think I'm quite balanced in that respect. I enjoy spending time with friends and family because social interaction energizes me and makes me happy. However, I also value my alone time because it gives me a chance to recharge, reflect on things, and pursue personal hobbies like reading or practicing yoga. I think both are important for a healthy, balanced life. This answer is much better because it shows you can discuss both sides of a question, use sophisticated vocabulary like energizes and recharge, and express a nuanced personal opinion. Now let's talk about the grammar you need for discussing daily life and hobbies. The most common tense you'll use is the present simple for routine activities. For example, I go to work at 8 in the morning, or I play tennis every Saturday, or I usually have dinner with my family. The present simple is perfect for talking about habits and regular activities. However, you can also use the present continuous for current habits or changing routines. For example, these days I'm spending more time at home, or I'm currently learning to play the piano, or I'm trying to exercise more regularly. The present continuous shows that something is happening now or is a temporary situation. You should also use the past simple when talking about hobbies you had in the past. For example, I used to collect stamps when I was a child, or I played football in high school, or I took guitar lessons for 3 years. This shows the examiner that you can talk about past experiences clearly. Additionally, the present perfect is very useful for showing how long you've been doing something. For example, I've been interested in photography for about 5 years, or I've played the piano since I was 10 years old, or I've been a member of the book club for 6 months. Using the present perfect correctly demonstrates advanced grammar, skills, and is particularly impressive to examiners. Let me give you some practice questions that you can use to prepare. Try answering these questions using all the strategies we've discussed today. First question: what do you usually do in the evenings? Think about your answer. You might say something like, in the evenings, I usually wind down after work by cooking dinner and then watching a TV series or reading a book. Sometimes I call my parents or video chat with friends who live in other cities. I try not to work in the evenings because I believe it's important to have a clear separation between work time and personal time. Second question: do you prefer spending time alone or with others? You could answer, I'd say I'm somewhere in the middle. I really enjoy socializing with friends, going out for meals, or attending events together. But I also need regular alone time to pursue my hobbies, like writing in my journal or going for solo walks. I think the key is finding the right balance that works for your personality. Third question: what's your favorite way to relax after work or study? You might respond, my favorite way to relax is probably going for a run in the park near my house. Physical exercise helps me clear my mind and release any stress from the day. After that, I usually take a long shower and then prepare a nice meal. This routine really helps me transition from work mode to relaxation mode. Fourth question: are there any hobbies you'd like to try in the future? You could say, yes, actually, I've been thinking about learning to play the drums. I've always been fascinated by percussion instruments, and I think it would be a great way to express myself creatively. I'm also interested in trying rock climbing because it looks challenging and exciting, and I'd like to push myself out of my comfort zone. Fifth question: did you have different hobbies when you were a child? You might answer, yes, definitely. When I was younger, I was really into collecting things like coins and stamps. I also spent a lot of time playing video games with my friends. As I've gotten older, my interests have shifted more toward outdoor activities and creative pursuits, like photography and writing. I think it's natural for hobbies to evolve as we grow and change. As you practice these questions, remember to record yourself and listen back carefully. Ask yourself these questions. Are my answers at least 2 to 3 sentences long? Did I use a variety of vocabulary instead of repeating the same words? Did I use proper grammar and different tenses appropriately? Was my pronunciation clear and easy to understand? Did I sound natural and fluent, or did I pause too much? This kind of self-evaluation is crucial for improvement. One more important point to remember is that there are no right or wrong answers when it comes to talking about your daily life and hobbies. The examiner isn't judging whether your hobbies are interesting or boring. They're only assessing your English language skills. So be honest and talk about your real experiences. If you genuinely enjoy watching TV series, say so. If you love cooking, talk about that. If you prefer quiet activities like reading, that's perfectly fine. Authenticity makes your answers more natural and easier to deliver confidently. Also, don't worry if your hobbies seem simple or ordinary. You don't need to claim that you do extreme sports or have exotic interests to get a high score. What matters is how well you can describe whatever you do. A simple hobby described with good vocabulary, clear grammar, and natural fluency will score much higher than an impressive hobby described poorly. Remember, the test is about your English, not about how exciting your life. Let me give you one final comprehensive example that brings together everything we've discussed. Imagine the examiner asks, Can you tell me about how you spend your weekends? Here's a strong, complete answer. Sure, my weekends are usually quite relaxed compared to my busy weekdays. On Saturday mornings, I like to sleep in a bit and then go to the local market to buy fresh vegetables and ingredients for the week. In the afternoon, I often meet up with friends for lunch or go to the cinema if there's a good film showing. Sundays are more about personal time for me. I usually spend the morning reading or catching up on hobbies like painting. In the afternoon, I might go for a bike ride or visit my parents. I try to use my weekends to recharge and do things I enjoy, so I feel ready for the week ahead. Overall, I think having this balance between social activities and personal time is really important for my well-being. Can you see how this answer includes specific details, uses time expressions, mentions various activities, explains personal preferences, and even reflects on the importance of balance? This is the kind of comprehensive, natural answer that will impress examiners and help you achieve a high band score. Congratulations on completing this tutorial on talking about daily life and hobbies in IELTS Speaking Part 1. You've learned so much today, and you should feel proud of the progress you're making. Now, let me give you some step-by-step strategies for reviewing what you've learned today. First, listen to this podcast again and take notes on the key phrases and expressions that were mentioned. Write them down in a notebook so you can refer to them later. Second, choose 5 questions about daily life and hobbies and write out your own answers. Make sure each answer is at least 3 sentences long and includes specific details. Third, practice saying your answers out loud. Don't just read them. Try to speak naturally as if you're having a real conversation. Fourth, record yourself answering the questions and listen back. Identify areas where you can improve, whether it's vocabulary, grammar, fluency, or pronunciation. Fifth, try to use some of the new vocabulary and expressions you learned today in your everyday English conversations. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become. Finally, practice regularly. Even just 10 minutes a day of speaking practice can make a huge difference in your confidence and fluency. If you want to take your IELTS preparation to the next level, I encourage you to visit the LingExam Language Academy website at lingexam.com. This website is an incredible resource that can help you improve your English knowledge and skills across all areas of the language. Whether you're preparing for IELTS or simply want to become more fluent and confident in English, you'll find comprehensive courses, practice materials, and expert guidance to support your learning journey. And here's some great news. If you want to study IELTS Speaking Part 1 much deeper to guarantee your high band score, you can visit and study with our dedicated course called Mastering IELTS Speaking Part 1, and the best part is that it's completely free. This course will give you in-depth training, more practice questions, detailed feedback strategies, and everything you need to excel in this part of the exam. So visit lingexam.com today and take the next step in your English learning journey. Thank you for joining us today, and we wish you the very best of success in your IELTS exam and beyond.